Welcome to Dance Mogul TV. We are live with Dr. Judith Weinstein, and she is the founder and director of Jubilation's Creation. Doctor, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Very nice to be with you.
Can you give us some background information on yourself and the business?
Yes, I am a medical doctor, and at the end of the 90s, 1996, I actually became very seriously disabled. It was a work-related injury from the weight of the lead aprons I wore. I was a diagnostic radiologist. I did invasive procedures. And working with live x-rays, I had to wear very heavy lead aprons. Over the course of time, it pulled down on my lower neck nerves and caused very severe permanent nerve injury that eventually spread throughout my whole spinal cord, and then superimposed over that was a chronic pain syndrome. So I had to leave medicine at the ripe old age of lower 40s, and my whole life was gone. My career, my hobbies, everything. I was completely disabled overnight, although the pain and damage was developing over time. I was a very big crafter at the time, and I lost the use of my hands for almost 7 years. And it was a very difficult time in my life. Thanks to my wonderful husband and family and friends, I was able to grieve through it, and eventually, with all kinds of therapies and pain procedures and medications and things, and time, I was able to heal to the point where my function improved. But I was still missing huge parts of my life, like my creative parts of my life. So when my hands started coming back in the early 2000s, I couldn't do some of the things I used to do, like pottery and things like that. So I picked up beading one day. I hadn't been a beader at all, but it was something that was very light and not overburdening on my upper body and arms and hands. And I could do a little and put it down. So I started beading, and then I really liked it and got serious about it, and then was able to do a little bit of knitting and crocheting again. And the yarns had changed over the years and gotten beautiful and really exciting. And the first thing I thought was, God, beads with yarns. And that was before the idea of mixed media crafts really became the rage that they are now. And eventually, 9/11 happened, and a lot of people in this country, as a memorial to what happened, a lot of crafters started doing things. Like there was a whole beading quilt that was made, kind of like the AIDS quilt, that went all over the country. And so people really started getting back to their creative roots to try and express their feelings about what happened on 9/11. So I started getting to the point where I realized I had spent 7 years grieving about the life that I had lost, my career and the other aspects of my life. And I just really didn't want to grieve anymore. I needed to leave medicine and that life behind and redefine myself in some way. So I started finding that getting back to my creative roots was starting to heal me emotionally. So at that time, there were no bead stores in all of South Jersey since the 1970s. And I kind of started a mixed media club in my basement. And once a month, 10 to 15 women would come. We'd have a great time. And one day I said to them, what do you gals think about me opening up a bead store? And everyone said, yay! And they were very, very supportive. And I said to my husband one day, what do you think about me opening up a bead and yarn store? And he said, beads? Who's going to buy beads? Well, maybe about a year later, we had an absolute gangbusters opening. And then he finally said to me sometime that weekend, okay, I believe you now. And that was in June of 2003, so we are just about to hit our 10-year anniversary. And my original store was a tiny store down the block, about a block down.
Wow.
And it was only about 850 square feet, and my office was a desk near the back door sandwiched between the back door and the bathroom door. That's where I started. And we did so well that within a year I was looking to expand because it was so tiny I couldn't have birthday parties or, I really didn't have room for even classes. So I was lucky enough to purchase this building, which was a total dump. And it took months to renovate it. And at about the same time, I had a distributor call me. They had about 150 boxes of beads and craft supplies that they wanted to unload. And I purchased them for a really great price. But I didn't have enough people to really sort them and repackage them. And when we moved in here, I started to realize that I understood now what it was like to be disabled. And I started seeking out the possibilities of disabled workers helping me with this inventory. So I was able to meet someone that was associated with an organization called the ARC, which is it's actually a national organization. They have many of them in New Jersey, but it's actually a national organization that provides services for the developmentally disabled adults. It also has group homes, things like that. So I met somebody that works for them, and she had arranged for me to bring in, well, they brought in a group of people every Wednesday morning. They worked upstairs, and they sorted and cleaned and repackaged this huge inventory of supplies.
Well, so let me just interject for a minute. You were injured. You found yourself not being able to work. As a part of your healing processes, you decided to go back to your creative side, and you tapped into that on your own. You began to use your hands, and it started to make you feel good about yourself, and you started to just reconnect with that side of you.
Right.
And as a result of that, you started to group together with some ladies, and then all of a sudden you came up with the concept of arts and crafts store, and you expanded. And then you said when you came and you got the distribution deal, you noticed that you were disabled, meaning that you weren't able to handle the volume of what you had?
Well, it wasn't because of my disability. It was because it was 150 boxes of supplies, and I didn't have enough staff to go through all that stuff so that I could prepare it for sale. But because I understood what it was like to be disabled and get back to doing something that made me feel that I was doing something with my life.
And that's what I wanted to bring up. You connected with that again for the second time and decided to bring in others as a part of healing for them too, because you saw how it started to help you heal.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And the other thing was what was interesting was as I developed a little website and I put my story on the website, customers started coming up to me and kind of saying, "Can I talk to you for a second?" And they would pull me aside and they would say to me, "I've read your story, you're an inspiration." People would tell me I'm a recovering alcoholic, I'm a recovering drug addict, or I have chronic pain myself, and your store has helped me find my creativity, and it's healed me. And I knew it was healing for me, but it wasn't until a couple of people started telling me this that I realized, God, what has helped heal me can help heal other people. And, I'm a physician, so for me, that's what my whole life was about, helping people heal. So the way I kind of describe it is the doctor had to leave medicine, but medicine never quite left the doctor. And so for me, starting to develop working with people that found some, not only healing, but joy and a sense of self-empowerment through reaching into their creative roots. That was really important to me. And that's why I opened my store in the beginning. Of course, I want to have a successful business financially. But for me, it was mostly about finding a way to redefine myself and to bring joy back in my life, because I had really been grieving for many years over the life that I had lost, and I didn't want to grieve anymore. So that's how it started. And then when this group was coming to me, every Wednesday morning they would sort and clean and repackage. And one or two of the guys in the group said to me, "Oh, you know, I'm an artist and I wish I could take classes here." And then that clicked in my head as well. So besides employing disabled workers, I started to think, God, I would like to have classes here for disabled people or special needs people. And it took me literally almost 3 years of talking to people and trying to figure out how I could start kind of like a art therapy type program. And people would walk in if they had scrubs on. I would say, "What do you do for a living?" And if they said to me, "Oh, I'm an art therapist or an occupational therapist," I'd say, "Oh, I have this idea. Let me take you out to lunch and run it by you." And basically, I took a lot of people out to lunch, but no one was really interested in being entrepreneurial with me and starting this program until fate dropped it in my lap. I was looking for a new accountant. I talked to 3 different people, liked the sound of one guy, interviewed him, brought him here. We were standing actually right where you are, and I was telling him about the classes that we give here. And then he literally stopped me in mid-sentence and he said, "I need to connect you with one of my other clients." And that was a woman who had started an organization that provides transportation, caregiver, and companion services for the developmentally disabled over 21. And she was looking for a place to take her clients to regular arts and crafts classes. And I truly knew at that moment, Basil, that, you know, God or the universe or whatever just dropped it in my lap. And he gave me her number. I called her the next day. We met that week. We hit it off. And she was the one that told me of the state program for those over 21 who have graduated from the school system, who get funding to do all kinds of activities. So she helped me. She showed me where the application for the state was. She explained the whole application to me. And it took me weeks to fill out the application, sent it to the state. A day later, I was accepted as a provider through the state. And that's what got me started. That was fall of 2008. And by December 2008, I had my first class attendee. And she stayed with me a year and a half, and by spring of 2009, I had 6 people, all of whom had signed on for an entire year, 5 of whom are still with me. Now, we just had, in December, our 4th anniversary. I have 26 people that come to me, almost all weekly, to take the arts and crafts class.
That's great. Congratulations
Thank
for
you.
that. And you've been managing family-owned and operated?
Yep. It's just me with some help from my husband and, you know, wonderful staff. For the special needs program, actually, once it grew to 6 or 7 people, we realized that we would really have to take it further than the bead store was able to support it, especially with the changes in the economy. So at that point, we decided to become a nonprofit. So originally, it was the special needs division of Jubilee Beads and Yarns. But once we became a nonprofit in October 2010, it then became known as Jubilation Creations. So we are now a 501c3. And we're at the point where we so desperately need to expand space-wise, as well as for the fact that I'm going to be expanding my services now, that we need a bigger facility. So I do have to start applying for grants. But my staff for Jubilation Creations is a different staff from the bead store. And much of my staff is comprised of Drexel University work-study co-op interns who want to go into special education, art therapy, creative therapy, recreational therapy, occupational therapy. So they have an interest in doing a 6-month rotation with me where they actually do the classes, but it helps them formulate their ideas for their own careers. Do they want to work with this type of population or not? Do they want to go into the therapy that they chose? So it really helps them decide what they want to do with their career. And it's very much a one-on-one. They teach the classes with each class attendee. So they are responsible for researching the projects that they're going to do with each person, okaying it with me. We go over the whole procedure, and then when they go in the room, they know how to do the project, and they work with each person on an individual basis.
That's great. So to the best of your knowledge, you are the actual first one to put together a facility like this?
Yes, I don't know of any others like this, certainly within a small business atmosphere as well. There are big organizations in lots of communities that provide services for the disabled and special needs, but no one that I know of that's doing it like this in a small mom and pop atmosphere. The other thing that we do is, because the experience with the art group was so wonderful, I started to seek out other organizations. The art group eventually lost their main driver and the person who was behind the group coming here, so they stopped coming, but I really wanted other groups to come. So the bead store has now become a very important focus of work skills training. So we have, there's an organization called the Yale School that has, it's a private special needs organization, and they have 5 school campuses. 3 are for autistic spectrum. So we have 2 campuses from the Yale School who come here weekly. We have another special needs school called Bankbridge School and the Jewish Family and Child Services. And all these organizations send people to us. And the beads that you see here, these tubes, I don't buy them like this. I buy the tubes from one place and the beads from another place. So I have over 2,300 different tubes here. So these have to be stuffed, and the labels have to be put on them, and the caps have to be put on them, and then they have to be hung. So the students that come to us from these special needs organizations, we teach them how to do skills like this. We teach them how to string beads so that we can hang them and sell them. So there are all kinds of repetitive manual labor skills that we can teach them. And then these eventually translate for them into work skills. And I just recently had one of the Yale School work coaches say to me, "Did you know that we had 2 people get jobs from the experience they had working for you at Jubilee Beads and Yarns?" So because of that, we actually are going to be expanding now as well. The state came in and saw my program and were very impressed with it. And they actually told me that I could become certified to actually evaluate people myself instead of schools bringing them in and we just kind of put together 2 hours worth of work and they sit there and do it. We can actually evaluate people that say, "I have arts and crafts in my heart and I want to do something creative." We'll be evaluating them for their work skills, putting together a training program so that we can train them in creatively relevant work skills, and then do job placement in the creative arena for those people that want to do something in creative areas.
Wow, that's really good. It sounds like you really have your vision clear. In talking about your new facility, what is the ideal environment like in the new facility as far as your vision?
Oh, I've thought about that a lot. Right now we have a little tiny room where our classes are, but we also have special needs yoga as well. But to expand, I would love to have a much larger building just for the special needs program, because I can expand it in a lot of ways. Jubilation Creations needs a room for more than one craft area, a storage room, and I would like to expand the yoga to include wheelchair and other forms of dance, And so we would need a room for that. And with expansion into the work evaluation and training, I would need a room for that. Plus, I have lots of staff and I need a bunch of offices. So I would love at least a 2,500 square foot building. And we can also, if I have a staff kitchen, there are a lot of the people that attend my Jubilation Creations classes that hear about a cooking class here or there. So, we could very easily bring in and expand to life skills kinds of instruction where they can learn how to cook. Some of the people that come to us live at home, but we have about 6 people that come to us that live in what's called a group home. And, years ago, they got away from living in institutions. And many of these people are now living in the communities, either private or organizations like the ARC of New Jersey, buy condos. And they move people into condos with help, with people that come in either to help them cook or clean, or they have shifts that are there 24 hours a day. So many people are living fairly independently with support staff, and they have jobs, they do other activities like come to our classes. So we have people from all different living situations that come. And if they have access to a life skills training, many people would be able to do some of these things on their own. So I would love to additionally
It's
expand
such a
to
great
that.
idea. I've been around
Thank
for such
you.
a long time, and it's just, I can just see how far you can really go with this as far as connecting with hospitals, different special needs organizations. It's just so much room for this idea to grow.
Thank you.
And take hold. I see that other, like you said, large corporations have the special needs Olympics, but this ideal in terms of the hands-on, special, kind of attention, connecting with those individuals that may have that heart, that arts and craft inside of them, in a hands-on kind of way, is just so valuable, and it's just so overlooked.
Very much so. And what people don't realize is that creativity is not just the actual physical act of making something with your hands. When you do something creative, creative thinking helps you in every area of your life. Creative thinking is how we solve problems. And we actually take, one of the things I train my interns and my staff to do is to take a lot of notes. And that's because, first of all, many of them are going to go into a therapeutic field, so they need to know how to evaluate and produce a plan for the patients that they'll be working with. But for my purposes, it's important for me for my own goals for Jubilation Creations, but also because I know that organizations that might give me a grant are going to say to me, how can you prove that what you're doing is helping somebody? So we really keep good records that show that we've helped many of the people taking our classes make tremendous strides, whether it be socially, because we interact with them and they interact with other people in class. We play music during class. They learn as we take them through each project. They learn how to go in a progressive, stepwise manner to starting something and finishing it. And all of these have very strong implications for making brain connections that might not have been there before. And so doing something creative is not just wasting
For
time.
fun, exactly, I agree.
It gives everyone a sense of purpose, of accomplishment, of pride. And in the classes, what we do is we keep up with holidays and with birthdays and things like that. So for some of these people, it's the first time in their lives that they've made something and given it as a gift to one of their family members. And then they put it out on the coffee table, or they hang it up on the wall. And it's a tremendous source of self-accomplishment and pride. And so
self-healing too.
Exactly. And being creative is much more than filling in time.
I agree. And just to piggyback off of that thought, what is it that made you decide to want to become a doctor? At what point in your life did you decide to do that? Because I think that's important, because it sort of connects and leads up to the work that you're doing now. There's a connection there as far as people and helping and serving and just the heart condition that you know, that of the type of person that you are, that's making you want to be able to give back and help. Tell us about when you decided to do that.
Actually, I was very young, and some of the inspiration was because I was a teenager. My father actually became very sick and almost died. And he was in the hospital for over 2 months. And the surgeon that took care of him really was great and helped my family stay together through it. And at the time, I was in high school biology, and, you know, I always loved to do things with my hands, but it was really a life-changing experience for me. And it started to steer me towards medicine, but that was always something that I wanted to do. I loved the challenge of science, but I just loved helping people. And I never thought of doing it through crafts, but I always, because I love crafts, I was always very hand-skill oriented. My father was a great carpenter, and my mother taught me how to do all the crafts. So working with my hands was something that gave me a lot of joy, and I had a lot of confidence in my hands. And so when I went into medicine, I originally went into surgery. But I switched and went into what's called invasive procedures radiology, which is doing kind of surgical type procedures through the skin with x-ray guidance. And that's where I eventually landed and stayed for 10 years until the lead aprons caused the nerve injury to develop. But, you know, it's funny. Once I started this business, if someone had come up to me and said, I'll give you $10 million if you can come up with an idea that will connect your expertise as a physician and all of your experience and your love of helping people with your love of doing crafts, I would have still now been twiddling my thumbs trying to come up with it. But this was very much an evolution through my own life experience. Yeah. And every time I got to one step and I wasn't sure where to go next, something dropped in my lap and led me there. And so I spent a lot of time grieving and wondering why this happened to me. And now I know why, because I truly feel that this is what I was meant to do at this time in my life. And so for me, it's helping people heal, but instead of jabbing them with all kinds of needles and, you know, worrying about x-ray exposure, it's through the joy of creative endeavors. So, and I really am getting a lot of the same fulfillment and gratification, important. Very much so.
That's important. Excuse me for 1 second. We're going to take a brief commercial break, and then we're going to come right back. So tell me, what are we seeing here today?
Well, this is where the magic creativity happens in Jubilation Creations. And we have our wonderful, talented class attendees here, as well as my staff. And I'll introduce everybody. This is Michelle Maltese. And Michelle's been with us now, God, over 2 years already, I think. And besides classes, Michelle also, after her class on Wednesday, she goes upstairs to take our yoga class as well. So she enjoys both of the things we offer here. Michelle, why don't you tell them what you're working on?
I'm making a coasters for my mom and dad.
Oh, that's nice. That's really nice.
And how are you making it? What are you using? These are tiles.
Very nice.
Yeah, and she's hand painting the tiles. And then afterwards, we will bake them. And she's working with Carly, who's one of my staff people.
That's nice.
And
Is this sort of like a blueprint?
Yeah, these are called preliminary drawings that we do so they can plan out what they're going to do before they start painting.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Carly is our artist in residence, actually.
Hi, nice to
Pleased
meet you.
So she's been introducing a lot of really neat art-related things.
Okay. All right.
And this is Patty Linthicum and Sharon Mader.
Okay. And I noticed that Patty is doing some communications with her hands.
Yes,
Okay.
Patty. Patty is hearing impaired,
Okay.
and Sharon is her interpreter.
Okay.
So
all right.
Sharon comes to every class with her.
Oh, that's nice. Very nice to meet
Basil and
Now
Anthony.
you're gonna go.
Yeah.
you.
And actually, they're inspiring all of
Under
us
there.
to try and learn a little bit
Nope,
of
this is
sign
left.
language too.
That's great.
So you're gonna
Yeah.
go under here.
And it
So-
looks like she's working on a scarf.
Yeah, Patty. Do you want to tell them what you're working on?
Ah, very nice.
And that's a type of knitting loom.
Thank you.
Right, and she's learned how to warp the loom, make the loops on her own, and how to do the actual knitting. A lot of the people that take our classes can't do typical knitting with 2 knitting needles. So we use the loom. And we've had everything from scarves and hats to a sweater that got made over the course of time using the looms.
And how long would that take to do a complete scarf?
It depends on how quickly each person works, but usually it takes many classes over time. So during a class, depends on what each person wants to do. Sometimes they'll work on that for the whole 1 or 2 hour class, and sometimes they'll do a little bit of their scarf, and then they'll do a shorter project. It really depends on what they like to do. So we tailor each class to their interest and their concentration level and just how they're feeling that day. If they want to work on something else, then we're happy to have them do that.
I also noticed that you definitely have the need for expansion here.
Yes, yes. Yeah, this room has gotten very small, and there are days that we have actually more people in here than this.
Wow.
So there's really not a whole lot of space for all of our arts and crafts and all of the people, and sometimes we have wheelchair people in here as well, so it gets very small.
Wow, that's
And
great.
some of these have been donated. We have a lot of arts and craft supplies that have been donated by some very wonderful people, and helps us expand the different types of crafts that we can do. And actually, we do many more different types of crafts in Jubilation Creations than I do in the store, because we look for all different media so that we can expand everybody's skills and make sure that nobody gets bored, because we don't want people to do the same thing over and over again. So we work in every medium. Carly's been helping us do art. We do string art. You can see things with yarn. Iomara is making a hula hoop rug over there with some of the material strips that we've been donated. I'm going to be ordering some mosaic glass, and we'll be doing mosaics and glass fusing. I have just acquired some glass cutting skills, so we can do some glass cutting. And we do some jewelry making, but we definitely don't exclusively do that. Over here is our sample board. So my staff makes the samples first as we're pre-planning the projects. And then we show the samples to our class attendees, and that's how we help them decide if they want to work on a new project that we've come up with or not. So there's a paper collage over there that just got finished. So we work in all kinds of media, woodworking.
If you don't mind, can you give us a brief tour of the store?
Absolutely. But before we go, let me introduce Claire,
Oh,
too,
okay.
and Iomara. Claire has been with me for, God, I think almost 2 years already, and she is soon to be a graduate dance major. And she's working with Iomara, who has been with us, oh God, I think almost 3 years. Iomara, you've been here a long time, right? She's made a lot of wonderful projects too. Yeah, so she's working on a hula hoop rug now. Yeah, exactly.
So you mentioned dance major. What do you hope to accomplish as far as your dancing?
Well, what I want to do is help others using different ways of creativity. So I hope to pursue a career in dance movement therapy.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Very special.
Thank you.
And I hope to keep her here. So if we ever get a big facility with a room, I would love her to develop a program for dance therapy and movement and wheelchair dance, and that would be great.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay, this is great. Thanks everybody for your time. We appreciate it so much.
Yeah, you might be able to get Dana, but not show Jill's face.
Okay, that's right.
Okay, so for the tour, do you want to start in the bead store, or you want to start here? Okay, actually, let's start in the back room, because that I really want you to see.
I'm about to watch out of the way.
That's all right. Oh, Jill, are you making a wreath?
Yep.
Very nice. Excellent. Now, I wanted you to see this room, because nothing like this exists in anywhere around here. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but these are called they're known as lampwork beads, but the better name for this is flamework glass beads. And these are the fancy type beads, not the little beads in my bracelet. Yeah. This is an art form that goes back to Italy in the 1400s. And it's called lampworking because in those days they used little oil lamps to melt glass. These are made out of glass, handmade out of glass. And we have this studio. It has 8 torches. These are the glass rods that you use to make the beads. And what we do is we use this metal rod. It's called a mandrel. You coat it with a liquid clay, and you hold it in one hand, and the flame for this is the length of your hand. And you melt the rod. It takes maybe 30 seconds to get this heated to about 3,500 degrees, where it's kind of like raw egg yolk. And then it gets drawn onto the mandrel. And you you start with a plain bead, and then you take other colors of rods or small things like this. They're called stringers, and you actually make them yourself. So you use the stringer to melt it onto the glass, and you make dots and other different surface decorations with it. So basically, what we do here is we create these fancy beads, and you make different surface decorations using different techniques and tools for shaping, things like that. And then once you've made the bead, it has to be reheated in a kiln, because the glass, once it's heated, becomes unstable. So if you don't reheat the glass, the bead will crack by itself in a day or a week. So this studio is really a state-of-the-art studio. We have 8 torches, and that's for the flame working. But all of these supplies are for metalsmithing as well. So we do metalsmithing jewelry techniques everywhere from sawing a piece of silver sheet into a flower and layering it and making it into a pendant that can be made into a necklace. So these are all metalsmith supplies and tools. And if we want to do jewelry soldering in here, we just pull out the connections to this torch, and we put in a smaller torch, which is used for soldering. It's a little teeny torch. It has the same connections, and we just pop it into those connections, and this jewelry torch, the flame is only about that big. Now in this room, I wanted to show you this room, partly because there are very few bead stores in the country that have it, but also because in my work with the Division of Vocational Rehab, which is one of the organizations of the state that told me they felt I could expand my services, I found out something I didn't know, which is that the Division of Vocational Rehab, or DVR, also works with traumatic brain injury people to retrain them. They also work with late onset disabled people like myself who want to get retrained to enter the workforce, returning disabled veterans. And I actually had one or two organizations that have troubled youth that have approached me. And there are one or two pilot programs around the country where they will take troubled youth, for instance. They'll sit them down at a torch and they'll teach them how to make beads.
I was thinking the same thing when you brought out the small.
Or
I was
metal
thinking
smithing.
about, as far as at-risk youth and summer programs and 3 floors of activies of different, services, providing different services for different individuals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So I would love to do that, because besides teaching them how to make the beads and become creative, then from there I could teach them how to make jewelry. I can teach them how to market themselves. There are a whole array of street fairs where I can teach them how to dress, take them out there, show them how to sell their jewelry. They can start to earn money. So this room has wonderful potential.
On top
to
of that,
also
being a professional too.
Right.
You have that you can help them with.
Right.
Wow.
And plus the metalsmithing aspect of it, using tools. There's banging and there's using a vise and things like that. So these are all really good skills that, everyone from teenagers to a disabled returning vet can use to develop a whole new...
I see it all on different floors.
Thank you. From your mouth to God's ears.
Three levels or more, different rooms, different activities, different age groups, disabled, not disabled, senior citizens, children.
Yeah, and I would love to have, children come to the special needs program. I haven't had them, and I think it's because a lot of parents don't realize that we just don't sit them there for an hour and have them scribble on paper. We do really very advanced, targeted crafts that develop skills. But the other thing is that kids in school age, the school ages, they are given services through the school system.
Okay.
And I know from having, worked so long with special needs families that a lot of times they have to put out extra money for additional services. So I haven't yet been able to communicate to them that this is worth the extra money, because it really is so beneficial to them. But I'm really trying to get more young kids in here. Plus they like a group idea. And I would be happy to put together a group. I just need like 4 people that get together, bring their kids, and then we can do a group class here
great.
as well.
You see it when they're working with the Legos.
Yeah,
They're
at a
being
very young
creative with the
age.
Legos, so you see that they have that capability inside them. It's just a matter of finding a place or a person such as yourself that could help nurture that creative side. I remember years ago in the 70s, they used to have arts and crafts in school where we used to do woodwork and just arts and crafts with just working with our hands, and they took it out because they said that it had no academic value.
Yeah, but that's so wrong. That's so wrong. That's, like I said before, doing something creative. That's creative thinking, is problem solving. And those skills are directly transferable to anything intellectual or educational that we have to do throughout our lives.
And it helps you to have a sense of accomplishment.
Oh, absolutely.
And it helps you get through your day, because you know that when you get to that wood class, in my case, I made like a lamp.
Oh, you did? Oh,
the
that's
long
great.
wooden lamp and
Yeah.
the light bulb, just that whole process, I was excited each day
Yeah.
so that I could hurry up and finish that lamp. So it
Yeah.
was very motivating.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time my son started going to school, I noticed that it wasn't the arts. There was not as much emphasis on it. It moved over to technology.
Yeah, and you know, that's actually, I was just thinking about that. Technology is wonderful, but keying something into a computer and instantaneously finding the answer is not developing the creative mind at all. And they're even starting to do studies now. They're finding that this computer generation, a lot of areas of the brain, higher functions, are not developing because people are sitting at a computer and getting an instantaneous answer instead of working through the question and attaining the problem solving on themselves. Yeah. And so in a way, that's why it's so much more important now to make sure that we stick in the schools and in our daily lives with creativity, whatever it is, because if we lose that, then we lose a lot of higher brain functions and the ability to think through a problem.
And I also noticed that the arts and craft helps to nurture the attention span.
Absolutely.
So they
absolutely.
took the one thing out of school
Mm-hmm.
that helped the attention span, they took that out.
Right.
Because
You're
it's
right.
calming and
Right.
it gives them something to be patient about.
That's right. That's right. And that is another important point. The meditative aspect of some of the crafts we do, how repetitive it is and mechanical, that relaxes the brain. That quiets some of the, activity centers. And that's very soothing for people that have anxiety disorders, ADD.
Yes.
And these are all things, if we did more of this, then there'd be less medicating of kids.
Yes.
And unfortunately, people who are not like we are, that see how important creativity is to our daily lives, people don't understand it. They discount it as something to take up your time with no redeeming values at all. And there's nothing that can be further from the truth, and it's really sad. So.
Yes, that's true. So, wow, so you took me back, bringing me into an environment like this, because I remember, things like this when I was coming up with the crocheting, and I just remember seeing all of that in the schools.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
that's great.
So this is a special room. I'm glad you got a chance to see it.
This is nice. This is really nice. Special needs, special room. It's just really nice that you have this.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And then you said over here you had some more.
So here is Chrissy you met. Chrissy's been coming here a long time. Yes. Yeah, Chrissy brings Iomara and Jill here to us. So, because the first craft I learned was knitting from my mom, God bless her memory, I opened up as a beads and yarn store from the very beginning. So I was actually one of the first in the country to do mixed media arts and crafts, which is basically putting together different materials. So I like to do the mixed media thing. Like this purse I crocheted this many years ago and then made a bead fringe to match the colors. So that's what I mean by mixed media, putting all different things together. And that's my personal favorite, so that's what I like to do. And the classes I teach, I like to do the mixed media classes. When I was just starting to get my hands back, one of the very first things I did when I combined beads and yarn was I made this Jubilee scarf, which was just some fancy yarn, and I put beads throughout it and made a bead fringe. And at one of my very first large bead shows, the editor at the time of Beadwork magazine came up to my table, saw this scarf, and said, "Oh my God, we got to have it in the magazine." So that became my first non-medical craft-related publication. That was in Beadwork magazine in October 2004, and I still get people ordering the kit. We put together different kits, and people still can order it on the website. And a lot of the things that you see here, some of these cards, these yarn sample cards that can be used to make crafts and jewelry. This is actually wool that came off a sheep. I took my daughter when she was 8 or 9 to a local farm where they did a sheep shearing. And this is used to make felted beads. You wet it and you kind of jumble it together and it hardens and you can make a very light felt bead. This was assembled by one of my disabled employees. And a lot of these things are put together by some of the disabled and special needs workers and volunteers that we have here. So I have a whole long list of different skills that people can do here that help us prepare inventory and sell it. And from here starts pretty much the bead store. These are all the yarn and knitting needle, accessories and supplies, and from here everything is bead related. And we have beads from all over the world, beads in all different shapes, sizes, and you can make a bead out of everything, starting from seeds to shells to, we have a lot of unusual things like all these semi-precious stones. This is real citrine, and you can make jewelry out of anything.
Wow.
So it's all put out and meant to inspire people and show them ways of using our components and how to make things. This is another one of my pieces. This is a piece that is woven on a little board with pins, and you create the weave. This is some of the fibers that we sell here, and make a beaded fringe, and you make it into a necklace.
Look at that.
And
Look at those fancy rocks.
yeah, this is actually dichroic glass. This is glass fusing, and this is one of the things that I definitely want to do with Jubilation Creations. So I'm actually looking to order some glass now, or maybe get it donated from a glass company. That'd be even better. You start with sheets of glass. You score it with a special glass scoring tool, and then it just very easily cracks. And you can shape it and then layer it, and you put it in a kiln at a very high fire temperature, and then it melts and fuses. And you have with a flat bottom, it's called a cabochon or a cab. So this can be made into a pin, or it can be made into a pendant. So there are all kinds of fun things you can do with that. So in working with our class attendees, I'll teach them how to use the glass cutting tools, and they'll be able to pick the color combinations, layer them, and when they come out of the kiln, then they'll learn how to make the jewelry with it. So
we did that at school.
oh, did you? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, what school?
It wasn't high school. It was actually middle school. I went to school in Piscataway. So
And you did glass fusing?
Yeah, they had that. They had the kiln and all that stuff in there. Yeah. They did that.
Whoa.
I remember doing that.
Wow, that's really nice.
Mhm.
Now this is precious metal clay, and this is actually fine silver in clay form. This was developed by Mitsubishi in the late 80s, and we sell the packets of clay, and you literally work with fine silver as a clay, and you can mold it into beads or pendants or charms. And this is the paste form, where it's a little bit more liquidy than the clay. I took a real leaf and brushed on 6 or 7 coats of it, and then put it in a high fire kiln at 1650, and in 10 minutes I had this beautiful leaf pendant, and then soldered the jump ring on the back and made it into a pendant.
So there's a real leaf inside of there.
No, because at 1650 it just went
is
poof.
But
Yep.
still, though, the mold.
Yep.
The mold.
Yep. Yeah, you take the back of the leaf and you brush the clay onto the back of the leaf, and then when it's fired, the impression of the back of the leaf shows on front. So Yeah, and I teach these classes actually in precious metal clay. This is also precious metal clay, but it's the sheet form of it. So I cut it into strips and then wove it together and made a necklace. The earrings. So it's almost, it's almost like mind-boggling, like a tremendous sensory input, all the different media that you can use, and but it's all part of the fun that we have here in the bead store side as well as in the Jubilation Creation side. And everything that's hung up here, these are not necklaces, these are just how we hang the beads. So these strands are meant to be cut apart, and the beads are used to put together as a necklace or earrings or whatever. So we have everything from Swarovski crystals to freshwater pearls, semi-precious stones. Those are all the basic beads called seed beads. I have a lot of vintage things. Vintage is anything 20 years old or older. So you and I are at least vintage. I don't know about you, Anthony.
Not yet.
Yeah, and I have a lot of ready-to-wear vintage jewelry. But a lot of the things that we have in the store, too, we make jewelry to wear. So all of those things hanging up are not only samples for people to use as creative inspiration, but we also sell them.
I just remember growing up in the 70s, and people used to plait those this weave thing, and it used to be strands. It used to be, I can't even remember what it used to be called.
Macrame.
Yeah, and
then, we still do it.
At the end of it.
Well, in the 70s, they made hanging planters.
Yes.
But now, absolutely. This is macrame.
Yes.
Yeah, we do that.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, and it's great for jewelry. Absolutely. This is all macrame.
That was so popular. I remember everybody was walking around with those things in their hands.
Yep, and well, we still do it. And we'll do birthday parties, too. Actually, that's part of our bread and butter for the bead store, was we do the birthday parties upstairs. So at 10 years old, we'll do macrame with them. So, because before 10, their fine motor isn't as good, and their attention span isn't as good, because this is a little bit more intricate.
Yes.
But we do, Girl Scout troops that come here to make something to get a badge. We do kids parties. We do bridal jewelry and custom jewelry and repairs. But we've had some 50-year-old birthday parties where the birthday girl has brought her friends and they've all made a bracelet. And so these are, you can have 10 years of birthday parties here and never make the same thing twice. Because each year we do something, more intricate. But all these are the different types of bead techniques that you can do with the things that we sell here.
From classy to casual, too.
Right. Oh, yeah. Especially, with the Swarovski crystals. Those can be very, very fancy.
Yes.
And some of the vintage stuff that we have. Yeah. So, you're right. That's actually, I like that. That's a good classy to casual. That's a good tagline for an ad. Thank you.
I see it. I see it everywhere. I see it.
Yeah, and this is the seed bead wall. And so the seed beads, these are kind of the basis for most of what you do with beaded jewelry making. And then we have charms, brass charms, wood. We even have some sign language alphabet charms as well. And these are the types of things that you do, mixing the fibers with the beads.
Vacation type stuff.
Yeah,
Fun stuff, parties.
Yep.
Kids parties.
Yep. And we do
packages for kids parties.
Oh, yeah. And you know what I've also done? I've done a good amount of corporate, not gifts. Well, one was a corporate gift thing, but like the Lachet League. Have you ever heard of them? They've been around for like 15 years. It's an organization that promotes the idea of breastfeeding. They had a world conference 5 minutes from here a couple of years ago, and they needed pins for their volunteers. So we made those pins for the volunteers. And there was another Jewish philanthropic organization that needed 150 place-setting gifts for their annual awards dinner. So we made a beautiful bookmark for them using the 2 ribbons of their logo color. And so it was blue and gold. And on one end we had blue and gold beads hanging off, and their logo was a flame. So I was able to find almost the exact same flame in a sterling silver charm. So on the other end we put the sterling silver charm, and it was left at everybody's place setting for the dinner. So, you know, we've done stuff like that too. And there was a young child singing star, an international British child. You could Google her, Connie Talbot. She was, at 6 years old, she was on Britain's Got Talent, the forerunner of American Idol, and she knocked everybody's socks off. And that original show is on YouTube. And we actually did the jewelry line, Connie Girl Jewelry. We did the jewelry line for her Third World Tour for her Christmas album. So that's somewhere in my display case too. So, and up in the window we have some other things. She's good. We just finished in there a few minutes ago. That's what I did. Well,
Good seeing you again.
Seeing you again.
How you doing?
Thank you for lending us your daughter.
Oh, no problem.
Supplies, tools, stringing material, all the stuff that you need to do anything jewelry related. And in the window, that's where people that walk in that want to make something, they'll sit here, or my staff will sit here and do repairs or teach, things like that. And we have some product in there as well. Magazines, books, storage stuff, anything that your serious crafter would need.
Welcome back. We are live with Dr. Judith Weinstein, and she is going to give us some more information on how you can reach out to her and be a part of her wonderful organization. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay, can you tell us how can individuals be in touch with you? Tell us the different organizations that can reach out to you, and just give us some more input about how a person can benefit from your services.
Well, we do have a website, www.jubilationcreations.org. And from the website, you can get to our Facebook page.
Okay.
And most of the news goes through the Facebook page on a week-to-week basis. And some of the things I like people to look at are the pictures of the projects that our class attendees make. Every time someone finishes a project, I photograph it and it goes online. But you can also see news about our growth, about the things that we need for donations. As a nonprofit, we do work on donations, and as we have an increased need to expand now, we hope that individuals, organizations, large corporations would help us grow, either through anyone who would be interested in being a benefactor, or eventually I hope to get out some grant proposals for funding to those organizations that will give grants. But we've had a lot of wonderful people who have given us all kinds of craft supplies. We always need craft supplies. And I am hoping that once we get a little bit more room, we'll be able to take on some volunteers. I've had quite a few people say that they would like to volunteer their time. So anyone can actually go to our website. There is a Donate Here button. Okay. You can actually donate through PayPal if you're interested in donated funding. But people will walk in. We had a sewing machine come in here and things like that. So
that's great.
That we would definitely appreciate everyone's help. And I can be reached by email at Dr. Judy, lowercase drjudy @jubilationcreations.org.
Okay. I had a question for our youth. What advice would you have for a young person that is contemplating going to school and their creative side, and they don't want to let go of either, and they just want to somehow stay connected to both?
They have to. There's no reason to exclude one for the other. Education is your key to your whole future, but it doesn't mean you have to exclude your creative side. As a matter of fact, when I was in college, I used to sit in class knitting. And no one used to be bothered by it. And your free time can be spent instead of in front of the computer or in front of the TV. You put on the radio and listen to music and you create. I spend as much time as possible on my free time doing something with my hands, as long as I don't start hurting. I'm still very limited in some of the things that I can do with my hands. But they are not mutually exclusive. Creativity is part of your life, and that exercise in creative activities, again, will help your mind learn how to develop creative thinking, and that only helps with your education. And in my experience, all that education and experience I had in medicine, look at what happened when I put that creative energy and spirit into developing this organization. And I never thought of myself as an entrepreneur, but the same creative thinking that helped me handle a difficult case in medicine. I used to have to put catheters very, very deep into somebody's body through tumors and into crazy arteries, and I had to figure out what equipment to use. And so that same training is what helps me work on an individual basis with each person that takes my class, because we'll do the same project 10 different ways with 10 different people of different capabilities, and we'll do each project 10 different ways because we'll adjust each project to that person's capabilities. And if I hadn't spent my whole life doing creative things and creatively thinking, I wouldn't be able to do as well as I'm doing, adjusting projects for each person's capability.
That's so nice. As time goes on, what would you like your legacy to be?
That's an interesting question. I guess I hope that what people get from being part of Jubilation Creations, not only the people that take our classes, but also the students that and staff that come through here, I guess I want them to experience the same joy and self-fulfillment that I have by being creative and by making creativity and interaction with other creative people as important a part of my life as I have, because it has so far-reaching an effect on your life when you do something that makes you feel good about yourself and you have fun doing it. Yeah. And that's also, you can't leave out the element. I guess I forgot that element. I mean, it's not only important to be creative for all of the cognitive and physical things that it helps you with, but it's also because it's fun. And I guess that's what I would like to know, that I imparted that to so many people, and it helped them heal and feel good about themselves and enjoy their lives.
That's great. And one last question, is there anyone that you would like to thank that stood by you from the beginning?
Well, absolutely my husband. My husband, Bill, has been a phenomenal support to me, and my family and friends, the staff here, both Lorraine, who's worked for me for years in Jubilee, and she was here from the very beginning, but the wonderful staff that I have. I've had a lot of interns go through here now because they only do 6 months at a time, but and also the person who actually got me started in this, Joan Clark, who owns Avenues to Independent Living. She's the one that I originally connected with, that told me about the state program and helped me get involved with the state program. So.
All right, Doctor. Thank you so much for helping us to understand and be reminded of the value of arts and education. And I'm sure that this interview is going to go a long way in helping to encourage the youth.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.